There is a Nubian proverb, it says, "Oil fire konil fighter." What is written on your feet, don't let it appear on your face. If you can walk to the target and accomplish that mission, don't leave it till tomorrow. It will appear on your face. You failed to do that job. We want to do the job before the time is over, before we disappear from this planet. So we are, actually I was expecting also a letter of support from the United Nations Special Envoy for Human Rights, actually the envoy for adequate housing, Milan Kosari in Geneva, and also I got an assurance from Professor Walter, he's the UN Special Envoy for IDPs, internally displaced persons, and he assured us that he's going to support us. We got already a letter from the appropriate housing envoy, who requested the Sudanese government and the Chinese government to stop building dams into Nubian land, and we're going to ask the UNESCO to come along and take over this big mission. Their mission in the 60s was unaccomplished. They need to complete this mission by making a real international campaign to rescue Nubia. So our homework is inside Sudan to alert the people, to organize the Nubians in the Nubian land, and even in the center in Khartoum. We have a sizable group of Nubians in Khartoum. We don't know how many, but I assume they are not less than half of the population of Khartoum who migrated from Nubia. Nubia is about to be depopulated because the government is applying very harsh policies, impoverishing the Nubians, forcing them to migrate or to desert the land. About 80% of the Nubians, I mean the expatriates in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf, are Nubians. We have so many intellectuals scattered all over the world. We want them back. We want them to be organized in associations, doctors, engineers, different professionals. It's high time to organize ourselves and make a strategy, a plan. We don't want to talk the talk and stay. We have to walk also forward to implement our proposals, the recommendations, for example, from this meeting, and we are also planning to carry onwards to make a similar or a bigger one in Washington, D.C. and then in Sudan. So we are preparing ourselves for an international Nubian Congress to unite the whole Nubian population abroad and inside. We don't have a political party up to now. It's not urgent, but if we organize ourselves in smaller committees and organizations, it will be much easier for us to unite and find solutions for these agonizing questions. How are we going to survive in this big world, globalization, and are we going to wait for rescuers from the planet, from the aliens? No. It is your job. It is our job. It's our job to organize ourselves from now and let us be committed. Let us strategize our things, prioritize them, number one, number two, number three. We had professors and doctors who gave us very enlightening, very encouraging presentation about the importance of language and culture. And all these are important, very important. We need to open classes, open language classes. MGH will need this task. Professor Herman will help us. Professor Adams will advise us. He's devoted for Nubia. And I consider them Nubians, by the way. If you are, one day we will insist that you become Nubian and stay with us over there. When we find time, we will give you we will be honored to have you with us. You did a great job. You educated the world about Nubia, and we want you to give us the cream of your experience. Herman Bell, you did a great job also, and we want you to carry on in accomplishing that great institution for the Nubian language with MGH. We are also honored to have our colleague, Dr. Arif Jamal. He's going to be our spearhead in educating the world about the threats of the dams on Nubians. So let us, from today, start thinking about making committees, organizations in different parts of Europe, America, because inside our people are crippled, they are not allowed to express themselves. And we need to support them financially. Our colleagues in the US and in Europe and in Saudi Arabia, they started collecting few donations and so on to support the people inside. I do encourage you also to be generous in supporting our committees inside. $5 can help even in doing a job inside Sudan. So I beg the attendees here to consider our appeal. We have an appeal in www.rescuenubia.org, an international appeal to help Nubia, to rescue Nubia. Please go and sign on that appeal. This is also a great help. It will help us to show the world that we have supporters, and we want you to distribute the international campaign and spread the word. I don't want to take much of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Uri Jalila. At the end of this session, statements of various Sudanese political parties supporting, sympathizing with the Nubian cause, and this open day will be read. Our next speaker is Dr. Arif Jamal Muhammad Ahmed from California, Berkeley University.
My story goes as such. Professor Bell talked about 1964, and I see the sentence they say is never again. It was about 5 o'clock in Serramato, Serrachel. You remember, most of us who read about it, some might have even been there. It was chartered trains, so the trains were in front of the houses. picking up people, right? Everything was going fine. It was one of the best. I mean, if for this conference we lost 1 hour or 2, what if they lost 3 or 4 days, you know? It didn't matter. So everything was going fine. And once all of the villagers were in the train, loaded, and they were loaded, the train started the siren, and one woman jumped out of the train and started running back to the village. Anybody heard that story? She ran back to the village, and she didn't come for another half an hour. Everybody in the train was wondering what has happened. They asked the driver, of course, to stop. And just about the sunset, we could see her dragging her feet and her jarjar behind her, coming back to the train. And everybody asked. They said, "Where have you been?" And amidst the cry of everybody, she said, "I forgot to close my door." This gives you an idea of really most of the people in 1964, since all of this conspiracy started, and I think it is much more by the pharaoh called Abdel Nasser, who didn't love him, we all cried on him, okay? And that was the basis why we agreed. Nobody knew in Haifa what were they going to face in their new life. Nobody had an iota of understanding of displacement. Nobody knew that it was all inner politics. Now, dams are bad. Dams as a construct are bad. They never improved on any person's life. They are always an idea of a government erecting a pyramid. Now, on the Nile, we don't have one pyramid built over the Nile, over Nubia. We don't have the second, because if you think of Aswan, Aswan is مش الأول ولا الثاني ولا الثالث. In fact, it is the fourth. Right? Now, we want to build another one, which would be the fifth. And of course, if they have their way, they're going to do it over that, that would be the sixth. There isn't anything left for Nubia. We are okay. After all, since we are all Nubians, I want to be very practical and pragmatic about it. And I'm hopeful like tonight and tomorrow with the committee we can talk more about this. How can we be very down-to-earth kind of things? When we ask for things, as we say, let's ask for the impossible, right? So what we're asking for the moment is, okay, let's have a look at examples where dams improved on the life of people. Aswan did not improve on the Nubians' life. No way. Let's see how the dams affect the culture of people. And then cultures are leaving, okay? I see all of you kids, your kids here and out and so on, and most of them speak English, and all of them are used to much more, not Kabila, but Kellogg's cornflakes and so on and so forth. So we have to be very practical in approaching this issue. We have to know what we can ask for. And one of it we would have to compromise. Unfortunately, the compromise is going to be our culture, or part of our culture. How much of it? Let's talk about it, okay? Now, Aswan did not improve on the Halfawi's lives. The amount of diseases, the amount of social change and evil and upheaval that has happened around Kashmir Girba is enormous. All of you know it. I went back in December for a long time, and I think I know somebody's going to get this to the embassy tonight, and Bashir's government, okay? And what did the Bashir government do to us or to our families? Well, we do not have the scars as a testimony. Now, I went back and I found in Al-Kalakla about half of Serramento. Half of the villagers are there. They all live in crowded houses or in houses near each other and so on and so forth. It was as if it was a miniature halfa that you could see. And all of you know this. You come from somewhere in the suburban areas where you have received or provided for some family coming from the reservation called Kashmir Girba. Okay? And I call it reservation because this is what basically the Canadians did to the Indians, right? And then they decided their land was too good, they took it away from them. So here we have the idea of people who could not live in that country, in that region. They were not well provided for, so they had to leave. They had to leave. And they said the diseases were, we have some doctors here, okay? It's not malaria, it's not bilharzia, schistosomiasis, it is humiyat, something like a fever. And up to now, we have some NGOs, I know that the Dutch are working on it, but people are dying. The health problems, but one problem that nobody ever talked about in migration is the psychological problem, the psyche of people, what happened to them. And this is enormous, and we never are able to talk about it. This same psyche is the one that mobilized about what? Villagers who had canes. I wish that this picture would come over here. I'd like somebody to bring it over here. Okay, yes, would you please? Yes. If you can just put it over here, because it is very demonstrative of what a brutal These are the heroes, unsung heroes, basically. When you have a 16-year-old and somebody shoots them cold-bloodedly in a government that called itself a government, all they were doing was trying to share in the decision. And I think we have a right as human beings. This is the 21st century. We have a right to decide what our fates are. What were they going to do in Hijabah? I asked. They had a bunch of torn, very old sticks. They were very happy, all of them, just to go down there and say, well, you know what, Bashir, we want you to hear us. They put them in prison, right? Okay, so there is an idea of it is a political move. It's a political move. And this political move plays an enormous role in our gathering here. What are we going to do? I don't want to go into details, but the African Bank, which is basically a satellite of the World Bank, came about 2 weeks ago. This is very recent kind of statistics that in Africa as a whole, and we are still Africans, dams did not improve on the life of people. Now, we have on the Nile Juba being built. The Ethiopians are building Juba. We have Bogiari being built in Uganda. The Tanzanians are thinking of building one. So we have an enormous amount of hydroelectric powers if we can sit together and talk about how to share it. They don't have to build it over Nubia. If they are failures, if al-Bashir cannot talk to other countries and ask them that they sit around, there is a 9 basic initiative, which basically brings us the 10 countries of Africa so that they can talk about the Nile and how to preserve it. I was in June, last June, I was on Lake Victoria. And Lake Victoria is receiving, it is one of the, basically, the mother of the Nile, right? It's receding so quickly. And the fishermen over there are telling us, listen, we have to hike now to go fishing. with all of this problem, like, there's an enormous amount of kids with tummies running around because of the schistosomiasis that is there. The same thing is happening in Old Nubia or Lake Nubia. My aunt has a house over there. We go to see her, and as you all know, who have anybody who's in Haifa, environmentally speaking, it's not only the fish that grew to be as big as crocodiles, which nobody likes, right? Because we were very happy with the turkey, the small ones, okay? It is the amount of malaria. And there is this guy who's half crazy, I'm sorry to say, but he's not here, so I can say it, okay? Who basically is applying pesticides that are paid by the Egyptian government. $55 million worth of DDT. DDT has been banned, stopped from the developed world, okay? We are still using it around Haifa. And it brings an enormous amount of environmental problems. Okay. So I want to make these comparisons, that Aswan, Hashem al-Girban was not the perfect place for the Nubians. It was really, you all have seen cowboys and Indians. Okay? What you didn't see is the Indians were fighting for their rights. Okay? I live in California and I see it now. Nobody dares to make movies like this, right? What they are making movies about is these people, unfortunately, just like us, they have been in reserves. In reserves saying that basically it is for the well-being of the country. The political situation in the 50s and the 60s are much more different than what they are right now. But if you have a look at what happened in the massive migration, what basically we call the Nubian Exodus in 1964, I'm not going to go long here, but when you look at it, it was basically a negotiation. We were pampered, we were very spoiled in a way. Why? We had trains, we had food. When we got to Hashem al-Girba, the houses were there. Supposedly, it was basically a consensus of the people. They decided for the good. And then there was Dawood Abdul Latif, Mohammed Tawfiq, there was Jamal Muhammad Ahmed. There were all of these people who were, though they were crying and demonstrating in the street, at the end of the day, they had to basically ride the ride on the train and leave with the people. But I want to say here that the government did give the Nubians a voice. Now, we don't have that much. It's a bullet, okay? And it doesn't work. We have to look at this because we have to compare. We have to say, well, you know what are the examples that we have? What are the case studies, as we say in sociology? What are the case studies that prove to us that this is wrong? And this question was asked by a woman, Ali Askuri. He's a wonderful man. I'm so sad that he's not here. He had to go to China. He is from the Manasir of Merowe. Merowe had nothing. They did nothing for Merowe. Overnight, they just opened the gate and flooded them. They said they didn't, but they did. They moved them all to basically about those who wanted to, 40 kilometers away, and they put them in tents. And who cares anyhow? They are impoverished, they are a very small group, and so on and so forth. Maybe for the Nubians, they are much more weary about it. I don't know. So, when you look at Merowe, and unfortunately we didn't say anything. We kept quiet. It's like, they came for my cousin, I said nothing. They came for my brother, I said nothing, and then finally they came for me. Okay? So we didn't do anything for Askuri and the Manasir. And it's time right now to basically open our ears and tune it to people who are affected just like us. We go to, I just want to mention the cultural effect. If and Mahas, because these are the last bastions, if you like, of course, before the Dungurawas come on board, but these are the last bastions of Nubia. There are 5 million trees date palms. Now, I can say date palms to Bashir, he will not understand, right? But date palms, if I remember, your uncle used to sing about Fenty, right? And everybody knows this, it goes into the sayings. It's not a tree with a fruit. It is much more a symbol of some sort. And when one of my uncles was asked, like, you are leaving Halfa, he says, well, I'm leaving Halfa, we are leaving wonderful date palms, okay? So the idea of, when you talk about a culture, it's not a question of, it's very important for me to eat hamburgers, okay? It's not important for me to eat kabida. This is not what a culture is. It is a collection, a series of small things all of us were bred and breastfed on that bring us to wherever we are. It is an identity of some sort. And the idea of having a Nile versus having a Tura, okay, the small canal, is completely different. Because I can take my children, or if I'm a newlywed, we go to the Nile for the blessing. By the way, we are not that Muslims as you think. We are not even as Christian as you think. We go back, way back. Nor, as you know, is not Allah, okay? We don't even know who Noor is, okay? So the idea of we have been there since 50,000 years. Domesticated, the first to domesticate, I teach history, the first to domesticate wheat and barley was that region of Nubia, way before the Egyptians. We had a problem with them, by the way. Okay. So the idea of, when you talk about changing people from one place to another, taking the mighty Nile into just a tributary of the Nile, it doesn't work. Let me tell you a story. We were with Filipino farmers. The Filipino farmers had many dances. In the year they dance about 360 dances, which is equivalent to practically one dance a day, which doesn't happen. Of course, the dances happen differently. Like, in a week they would dance 4 or 5 different dances. There comes an anthropologist and finds that they dance only 150 dances instead of the 360. Where do they go? Now, how does it happen that we have a reduction of 50% of arts and culture in this country? And you know what he found out? He found out because of globalization, right now, and because we are bringing improved varieties, which is of course a hope, and we have a student here working on biotechnology, okay? Instead of the 360 varieties of rice, now they grow only 150. Do you see the relationship? So with every harvest of rice, we have a dance. When we take this rice and kill it, then one dance go, then the language go, then everything that is connected to this harvest go, circumcision go, right? Blessings, gods, everything disappears, little by little. So it is not as simple as putting people on a train and changing their location. If you want glory, and that is what basically Bashir wants, if he wants glory, then his idea is basically to get something that will remind everybody of him. Shouldn't be on the land of Nubia. Okay. Instead of slinging, let me say this. How can we we heard Professor Bell talking about we should have preservation of culture. Now, I would like to let him know that we have encrusted this in the World Bank, because the World Bank, unfortunately, is one of the biggest bodies that disperses money for building or construction of dams, especially hydroelectric dams. Now, we have done it, and I think we can follow it, okay? We can basically go to the United Nations, go to the World Bank and ask them and say, would you please give us this leaflet? And it did not come from the Nubians. I mean, we did our share. But it came from people like the Shona in Zimbabwe. They had a small place where they buried their ancestors. Ancestors, for the Halfawi, it is very important, right? Right? This is what you show. All you showed us were dead people. You go to the Antikhana, I'm suffocated because at one time I think I am basically underground with dead people. Akhenaton is dead. We have to say it. So basically, burial grounds are very important. And the last place that the Halfawis left, went to see before they got into the train, were basically the burial grounds of their ancestors. The Shona tribe asked the World Bank to preserve their land, not to construct a dam because it's going to flood it. And the Shona, if we are proud of them, they are much younger than we. So we can bring this into play. We can say we have cultural heritage that we want to keep, and we should be able to keep it. Language disappears, but it's disappearing right now. And Professor Hamur was saying, his father knew Dungulawi, his grandfather was Dungulawi, his father understood, and he doesn't. He seems to be repeating my whole story. Only the fact that I was not able not to learn Mutan or Nubi. Because my grandmother, she came to Khartoum, she was about 21 years old. She came with my aunt, and she died, she was about 90 years old. She never spoke a word of Arabic. And we said, Habobo, we don't understand you. She said, okay, then learn my language. Do you think I'm going to learn yours? We had to learn it, okay? We had to learn it, and this is the way to do it, okay? You keep on at it. There are wonderful people who want to make it easy for everyone. But let's be practical. We do not want to be a museum. We cannot be. It's not possible. You cannot preserve it as such. Yes, the saga was there, and you know, it's beautiful to hear this. Believe me, it's very nostalgic. It's wonderful. What I'm asking is how to be practical about it. Is it true that we can teach our children Nubian culture? We are, every day, we are. By being here, by being together, practicing the small things, we are able to keep that culture going. Okay. We can keep the language going by small things that we teach them. Maybe at one time we can basically go to where there is a language and we can learn it. I want to emphasize and stress on this. When we talk about Kajabar, we are Sudanese. We have to look at ourselves in a larger context. We are not against the development or anything that is going to impede the development of a free and liberal Sudan. We are Sudanese. We have to take this into consideration. What we are saying is, we are saying as a mosaic, as part of Sudan, we are being wrong. Darfur, whether people like it or not, is wrong. It shouldn't happen. The South shouldn't happen. The East shouldn't happen. What we are saying is, in these policies, there are wrong people, and because they are a minority, they should not be crushed. They should be heard. We have many friends, and I looked into Google today. Those who, all of you are, I'm sure, email and web savvy. Google Nubia. Google Nubia. I swear to you, I went to a church. I was invited to a church in the middle of the Bay Area near San Francisco. And this church, this group was called Nubians. And I have these, what they call sisters, you know, with praise and everything. And I am there, and they start with Maskarna, okay? And they are Nubians. That's what they call themselves. And they are very happy with their group. And I say, what are you talking about here? They said, Nubians never came as slaves to America. And that's why we consider ourselves as Nubians. And we are Americans, African Americans, but we belong to this tribe. And some of them come to Nubia, right? Unfortunately, our Egyptian brethren, or brothers and sisters, do not allow them to come through. And this is a major point. If we have to ask for something, why don't you open the gates between the Nubians in Egypt and the Nubians in Sudan? Why can't we have the tourists? If a tourist is flying from Cairo to Abu Simbel to come to Sudan to see Nubian Sudan, they have to go back to Cairo, take the plane back to Khartoum, and then from there the train or the plane to Haifa. It doesn't work this way. Nobody I've met in the States who did not want to come to Nubia. And I know that there are an enormous amount of touristic groups. I know some of them from Egypt who are trying this. What I'm saying here, I'm not going to put a plan for tourism, but what I'm saying here is there are other alternatives to develop this region. If you give us a share of ideas, we can come up with some. Okay? So let's keep the dialogue open. Okay. I want to see who are the players in Kajabar. The idea is the Chinese, right? The Chinese are the ones who are going to build the dam. And China, unfortunately, they are very difficult to lobby. They're not easy, right? They close their faxes, they close their emails, they just don't care about anybody. But the latest news I got was that they were approached and they are considering, they did not decide. So this is the time for us basically to approach the Chinese and talk to them about, we don't want them to be there, okay? We have to resort to human rights. I know Dr. Mennan and a group of wonderful people already have handed a petition to the United Nations envoy. We should talk to those, we should talk to our European friends, and we should talk basically to our Africa desk in the US. Anything that we could do would basically help in stopping the dam. Now, let me come to another practical point that I think we should think about is what if the dam becomes a reality? Because here they shoot people. I mean, these are not people who think, right? So if it becomes a reality, what would be our role? And I think the major aspect that we never spoke about or talked about tonight is you have to go back to the Mahas in the region and talk to them about what they want. It seems us, who are more or less comfortable, some more comfortable than others, okay? We are taking these kind of, okay, let's fight for Kajabar is not going to happen and so on. It doesn't go away by wishing. And we have to go back down to the region of Mahas. By the way, Kajabar Dam is supposed to, according to the plan, it's supposed to inundate or flood 9 villages. 99. 99 villages are going to be flooded, not 9. Okay, so these 99 villages have to be asked because they can't afford another building. And I wish you let them know nothing drastic should happen. People like him should not be in prison, right? you haven't been in prison. I hope you will never be, some of us at least. But those who have been in prison, that is not an interesting experience. Okay? So what can we do, which is, I don't have an answer for that, I'm just asking the question. But what can we do for the people who are down there, if Kajabar is to be a reality? Okay? Now, the last thing, and I close here, this is the question that I really would like to know, where is the money going? I don't think the problem of dams is that they generate an enormous amount of cash. And this money usually does not end on the dam. And in this government, I would like to know who is signing these contracts. Thank you very much.